Welcome to this session of Change Happens. Here's how furniture nerds handle it, aka change management. We'll start by introducing ourselves. I'm Tamara Campbell. I am our healthcare team lead. Been a designer for over a decade now, and this is actually my 7th time presenting at the CET experience.
Hi, I'm J.Palmer. I have been part of the design world for over 10 years. I was a dealer designer for 3 years, and I've been with Kamiko for a year. I'm on the Miller Knoll team.
And I'm Marjorie Nerby. I am Kamiko's Steelcase team lead, and I've been in the dealer designer world since 2015. I've been with a couple different dealerships and a few building showroom moves. So we are here to talk to you about change management.
And an introduction to Kamiko Designs, for those of you who may not be familiar, Kamiko supports all things furniture in 3 main ways. We have Spec Services, that's us, that does contract design and specification work for dealers. We have Furniture Planning that supports owners as project managers and go-to gurus, and Kamiko Green, which focuses on all things furniture sustainability. And on to why we are all here today. The dreaded word, change. Just hearing that word can invoke strong emotions, which is valid, and it's hardwired into our brains. Which emotion takes the driver's seat for you when change starts? We'll have some thought starter questions for our recording for virtual attendees, and for watching later, these will be live polls in the session while we're in Orlando. And today we're going to use that lens to explore how to lead change from the inside out, working with emotions instead of against them. We'll walk through a framework with 3 stages: align, activate, and anchor. Each has its own emotional landscape, and knowing how to navigate it makes all the difference.
So what's change without a team? Align is about getting everyone in the same mental and emotional room. Change either needs to happen or is happening, and a shared understanding within the team is going to help the process go smoothly. That doesn't mean everyone has to have the same experience, especially experiencing joy about the change either. There's strength in every perspective that will help move through the change for success. Leaving space at the table for everyone and their thoughts and feelings creates a comfortable place where teammates trust each other. So no matter what someone thinks or feels when the need for change happens, they deserve a spot at the table to help you get to the goal. Bringing them in early and letting them be part of the process from the beginning to build a shared team understanding and not the perception of required compliance. You don't need to be cheesy to address the emotions in the room. It's about meeting people where they are and giving them an opportunity to excel within the process. Someone who's really excited or joyful is going to bring new ideas and opportunities to the table. They're your drivers. Those who feel angry or feel fearful will present risks and drawbacks that help you create a solution that really works on paper and in reality. A person who's sad about the change holds value in the processes and benefits of things that have been working well already. They remember where you've come from as an organization and keep that perspective front of mind. For those who aren't as familiar with the Inside Out movie, the islands of personality are visual representations of what makes people who they are, their values, their core beliefs, and what's important. The more developed those values are, the more access the emotions have to those characteristics, and the stronger the person is to withstand life's ups and downs. You have to keep those islands floating to keep your team focused and weather the ups and downs of change. Before you start a change process, you need to define and promote your organization's values and goals. A united understanding of who you are and what you're trying to do as a company will provide the stability needed to make it through the change with minimal bumps and bruises. Promoting messaging prior to a change about shared goals and what everyone's working towards is going to give your team perspective as to why the change is needed. If your focus is on the bigger picture, The change will be better understood by your team as improving what you're trying to do to meet your goals. That also means you need to be flexible because getting to the big picture isn't always a straight bridge across, and there's usually multiple ways to solve a problem. Part of aligning your team with the need for change and helping them focus on your organizational culture and goals is setting that direction forward, but not going too far ahead with defining what needs to happen. They have the direction and a compass to get them to success. As a leader, you shouldn't hand them a map of where they need to go or set too many requirements to meet when figuring out the change. Part of creating the team of people is letting them help to solve the problem using the skills they have built. Enable the creativity, let your team use their skills, thoughts, and emotions to keep the conversation open. Sometimes the best solutions require you to reorientate and pave a better path than the one you originally thought of. Aligning your team early and getting everyone reminded and focused on your organization's goals is step one. How do you as a leader keep the direction, but leave the problem-solving methods open for your team to explore solutions? Establish a feedback team with people who have a variety of perspectives and emotions about the change you're implementing. If you can arrange a system where your team is comfortable getting and giving honest feedback, that trust will bring you the best outcomes that you may not have thought of otherwise. You need the people who keep the ideas flowing. You need the people who are going to analyze the risks and the uncertain what ifs. You need the people who are going to remind you what is already working and what's been tried and successful before. Each perspective comes with a different set of human emotions, and when those are validated within people, they trust their teammates and their leadership team with their feedback. Asking questions of your team that encourage people feeling uncertain, scared, or angry to voice their concerns and feeling heard will help you shape the change. When someone is brave or bold with their thoughts to the group, or even just to the leadership team, support them by thanking them for speaking up, encouraging them to share with a larger group, and keep them feeling heard by ensuring all of the feedback is addressed throughout the process by affirming with solution-oriented communication. An example of that would be, yes, that is something we should look at, or saying, great point, what do you think could help us overcome with that? So we have a question if you want to pause the recording and just kind of think about what tools we can use to help us align our teams. Our in-person presentation is going to have a thought discussion. So if you want to use your internal team to discuss that and resume the video, we highly recommend it.
Okay, the next portion of the change management is activate, where we co-create the shift. This is where we start moving along the change process and where joy and sadness often have to work together. Joy brings momentum and sadness makes sure we process what we've lost. Together, they can create resilience. What one thing helps your team move from planning to action during change? Okay, so to start in the activation phase of this, we need to empower and equip. First, we empower and equip people, give them the learning opportunities, peer networks, and time to adapt, plus accountability. That's like giving each emotion a new control button to try. This is where the change starts moving. We've aligned and planned out all the changes. Now we need to activate. Activation means turning ideas into action, co-creating the shift, and building momentum. Empowerment allows the team members to have some ownership over the changes, and equipping them for the changes removes the barriers around it. Together, they transform plans into progress, and it sparks momentum. Once teams are equipped and empowered, we need to experiment and implement. Activation in this phase means putting ideas into motion. We experiment with small tests, learn quickly, and adapt what works. Implementation turns those learnings into habits, celebrates wins, and adjusts weak spots. Throughout the process, all emotions are valid. Leaders set the tone, give space to experiment, and foster feedback to maintain momentum and build resilience. Transparency means buy-in. Transparency is critical. If the team can see progress, warts and all, they'll be more engaged. The next key ingredient in the activation phase is the transparency. When people understand the why, how, what's next, they're more likely to engage with the change. Transparency means being honest about the challenges, progress, decisions, and this builds trust and helps the team feel part of the journey. Openness creates engagement, encourages questions and ideas, and drives commitment. Communication is key during this phase. When we combine empowerment, experimentation, and transparency, teams take ownership, build momentum, and resilience grows as successes and challenges are navigated together. It's the balance of energy and reflection, joy driving progress, sadness helping us process the transitions. Activation works when people understand the why, feel part of shaping the change, and move forward together. This is the payoff. So to close out this session, or this section of the session, I should say, I have a question. After learning about activation, what one word describes how you planned to lead change on your team?
All right, you have aligned, you've activate. Now let's anchor. And this is where we're creating those new core memories. And inside out, the core memories shape who Riley is. In an organization, our shared wins, rituals, and stories shape our culture. In other words, it's what sticks after that initial hurdle. How does your team celebrate wins? Okay, first you got to celebrate the big and the small. Sometimes joy is running the party and it's disco balls and quirky traditions and team lunches. Other times sadness reminds us to honor the old way we've left behind. You got to acknowledge all the hard work. Celebrate and reinforce the new behaviors, mindsets, and systems that are taking root. When you celebrate, that's what makes the memory stick long term. And then embedding that change into your culture through those rituals, roles, policies, and storytelling. This doesn't stop. Change is inevitable. Make it part of your office atmosphere, the client experience, and even the way you support each other. It's like adding new islands of personality that everyone can access from headquarters. You aren't going to get everything right and embedded in stone the first go round. Software changes, society changes, people change. You have to scan for new signals, and this is going to build resiliency. You're going to need to be attentive to what's emerging so this cycle can begin again. Wash, rinse, repeat, based on fresh insight, shifting conditions. Change never stops. And the faster you see the signs, the smoother the next transition will be. But build in specific timeline regroups as well. You can do this either monthly, quarterly, biannually, annually, whatever's going to work best for your dealership. But build in the scheduled time for that feedback to take place. How do you know when change goes well in your organization? When we embrace the full range of feelings during change, we make transitions smoother and strengthen culture. So whether you're aligning, activating, or anchoring, the key is listening to all the emotions, working together on the control panel, and building new core memories. So we can run through an example of how to apply the align, activate, and anchor to a specific scenario so we can see what this would look like in real time. So we can talk about implementing new software. So what would changing from maybe going from CAD, that's something a lot of people have experienced, is going from CAD to CET or moving from one spec software to another. So what would a line look like for changing software?
When you're aligning your team, I would think about all of the people who use the software and are impacted by the software. So not only do you have new people coming in who aren't as familiar and are probably really excited about the change, but you'll likely have your veteran team members who have been really invested in the software you're using. Both of those perspectives are really important. I would also consider people who are getting the output from these programs. So having someone on a sales team or a client-facing team in your organization sit in on the change and understand what's happening within the design department with a specific change from CAD to CET. so that they understand what the new output is and maybe some of the challenges that the design department is going through during that transition. So they're a little bit more flexible with what those deliverables and outputs are during the period of change. I would also have all of the teams be honest with feedback throughout the process. So scheduling several meetings while that change is taking place, before and after, so that everyone has a chance to say, hey, I don't like how this is working. Hey, I don't like, what this is looking like in the end. And that way everyone on the entire team is aware of what's going on and also what progress is being made to make that transition happen.
Yeah, and actually I think that kind of runs right into the activate portion of it too, Marjorie, because I think you need to have that experimentation and implement what you're learning. And you're going to have this period of in limbo, I guess, where not everyone is going to catch on as quickly, or maybe some more senior people in your office who have had one way of working, they're going to maybe give a little pushback, and you're going to have people who are going to dive right in. So I think that's in this experiment and implement, and then you're going to have to keep trying, but then also you're going to have to be transparent with the communication, with how this whole process is going, because there's going to be bumps in the road. And going back to the PowerPoint, it's a compass. It's not a straight way on a map to get to the end here. So you're going to have to understand that throughout this process, it's going to be a little rocky sometimes. And that's the honesty and vulnerability, I think, that your team is going to have to see to actually want this change to happen. And I think, truthfully, if during the change process, you can own up to some of the wins and the fails, and the team can see that you're going to have them buy into this a little bit more, and they're going to feel more in control of this change. And that's going to be the payoff of it. So I think you have to have some openness and vulnerability during this activation phase of the change.
And then moving directly into the anchored portion is then once you've kind of got through all of that, especially when it comes to software, all of a sudden there's a new update and there's a new feature, or something is moved, or it's changed, and maybe the template needs, so nothing is really set in stone. You got to kind of redo this, and it's understanding, like, celebrating each time something happens, like a new template comes out, a new feature, and it's, hey, let's schedule a time and all of us learn this new feature because it's going to help all of us and how we can use it. And being able to just reinforce all of that, if knowing that, hey, it's not just a setting a date in the future of, okay, on January 1st, we're switching from CAD to CET and we're going all in. You're going to have to then, you can't just leave it there. You're going to have to, okay, what 2 months from then, let's have a check-in. Like, what is the things you're struggling with the most since we made that transition? How can we help? Is it additional training, or somebody not understanding what it does, or just getting used to the difference of how long different parts take now? So even once you get past all of these things, again, you can't just leave that milestone in the dust. You kind of have to be able to go back and say, hey, we did this was working, this wasn't working, let's make improvements, and great job, team, for bringing to us that there was an issue and we figured out a solution, and we can just keep moving forward. And we would love to connect with everybody. We are active on LinkedIn, but our emails are also on the screen. You can also follow us on social media for the Kamiko Designs LinkedIn. We have a YouTube channel, and then there will be a link on the PDF to also subscribe to our newsletter. We will be sending out a recap after the conference, so if you sign up for the newsletter, you will see that.